Hi, I'm Kent Greenfield. I'm a professor of law at Boston College Law School, and I've been teaching at Boston College for about 16 years now. I do constitutional law and corporate law. Well, so one of the things that I realized during this book is that and I don't end up being as cynical as the title of my book might suggest. That it is actually possible to do better at decision making and choosing, both personally and collectively, than we often do. But the reality is that choice is like any other. Choice is like a muscle. It gets flabby if you don't exercise it and exercise it well. And I'm not just talking about choosing between Coke and Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi and Diet Coke. It's about knowing your own limitations and being prepared for when you're being constrained and influenced. So one metaphor that I use is, in a sense, our choices are the product of a battle going on in our brains and our biologies. And oftentimes the battle is being fought on a battleground with a bunch of armies put there by other people, by culture, by marketers, by people who want to sell you things or sell you candidates. And unless we know that battle is going on, we don't have any influence on the battle. I don't think we are completely a product of our situation and context, but we are more a product of our situation and context than we might think. And the best way to protect ourselves and to build that choice is to take note of it. So one thing I might say is that I think as individuals and as public policy experts or lawyers or people interested in culture, if we think more about situation and less about individual atomistic decision making, we actually will do better. One quick example. The obesity epidemic in the United States is raging, right? Now about a third of Americans are obese, about two-thirds of Americans are overweight, and these numbers are growing, and we're at historically high levels, and it's the biggest health care risk in America today. Now, we can deal with this in a number of ways, but one way we could deal with it, we can talk about, well, this is a failure of personal responsibility. It's a failure of each atomistic individual when they choose to eat a Big Mac and drink a Coke rather than eat a salad and drink water. And part of the reason that many of us carry more pounds than we should, including me, is that is part of it, right? That we should make better personal choices. But it's not all of it, and it may not even be most of it. If we think about the situation that creates the environment where people are now more obese than ever before, and where it opens our eyes to ways to deal with this epidemic more than just chiding people who are overweight. We can think about, well, actually maybe we should stop subsidizing corn so we don't have high fructose corn syrup being the cheapest way to sweeten things, which makes a Happy Meal cheaper than fruit, vegetables, and lean meat, and which makes it cheaper to feed your family at McDonald's than at your supermarket. Maybe it means that we need to build more parks where it's safe for kids to exercise. There are several kids murdered in Boston this summer out in parks. So if I were a family living in that neighborhood, I wouldn't want my kid to go exercise in the park. So what do? They sit at home in front of the TV. So obesity is not just a sign of bad personal responsibility. It's a sign of bad environment and bad situations that creates the context in which people make bad decisions. I think my voice and the voice of this book is a voice that needs to be heard these days. Again, I'll return to what Herman Cain said last week. People who are poor, people who are unemployed should blame themselves. Right? And this is essentially the Tea Party mantra. People choose the situation they're in. So if they're unemployed, if they're poor, then they're really to blame, and we shouldn't ask anybody else to help. So when the mantra of personal responsibility puts people who are victims of the situation and the world in which we live, blames them, then it relieves the rest of us from doing anything about it. So what I would suggest is that people start talking about shared responsibility rather than personal responsibility. And the more we talk about shared responsibility, I think the better off we'll be. Thank you. Enjoyed it.